Well, welcome to the 2013 Leadership Symposium. We're so glad that you're here. I know a number of you arrived last evening. Some of you were arriving when the moon was still full in the sky and everything, driving in. And I'm trying to figure out who had the longest distance this morning. Would that be Miss Leanne Curtis? Coming to us from Topeka, I believe. She drove in this morning from Topeka. So we're very, very pleased to have you here. I'm Deborah Preto. I'm the Alumni Director with the university. I also do governmental relations. And this is our third full seminar or symposium that we have done in terms of leadership. In terms of seating and some housekeeping, we tried to put together the individuals that were from like areas, and feel free, we can move you around should we need to do that. A number of our speakers for the morning are also coming in and they will be sitting at your table. Housekeeping, we're very casual and informal. Please move around. Restrooms are just outside of the door and straight through the hallway. We'll have our meetings, breakout meetings will be in this room, the Alumni Conference Center room, and then also in our boardroom. But today it is truly my pleasure to introduce to you our first individual to the podium. It is Dennis Spratt. Dennis hails currently from Lawrence, a little bit. It's an L, Dennis. But he's from Lawrence. He's been on the alumni board. This is the last year we've had him on the board. He's in his 8th year. He has been a tremendous leader for us. Please join me in welcoming Dennis Spratt.
Yeah, there's a little bit of difference in geography from La Crosse to Lawrence, but that's okay. We moved from Hayes in 1988 to Lawrence, but I want to welcome everyone and thank everyone for getting up on a Saturday morning and coming in. I'm standing in for Marcy Aycock, who has an out-of-town commitment. So I am the chapter development chairman. Let me just give you just a 30-second view of what the chapter development is. It is a brand new committee on the alumni board. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to develop chapters throughout the state and throughout the country eventually. But we felt we needed to have a committee to support you all in helping you develop those chapters. So it's a brand new chapter. I'm the first committee chairman of that. We have monthly calls. Some of you in this room have been on several of those, and we really appreciate it. Our next call is this next Monday morning. So if any of you would like to be on that call, it's at 11 a.m. It's a toll-free number you call into. See Charlene, she can get you the information for that. I would like to thank Dr. Hammond and Fort Hays State for sponsoring this, and then also thank Deborah, Charlene, and all the staff. And then also I'd like to welcome Suzanne Klaus, who just joined the Alumni Association, and her job is going to be to support chapter development, and we're really excited about that. One thing, just real quickly, we had one of our alumni board members die in a car accident here about a week and a half ago, Gordon Zarodnik, and his wife Ray. And I'm reminded of Gordon. Gordon, when he joined the board, I believe was about 78 years old. I mean, when I look at someone being 78 and giving back to their university and taking a leadership role, it really inspires me. Gordon grew up in the same area of the state that I did, down by Wilson and Ellsworth. So I would challenge every one of you, no matter what stage you are in your life, to, if you want to get involved in leadership, make it a lifelong commitment to do whatever organizations you want to be involved in leadership. And I thank you for being here today. I'm reminded, I want to leave you with a thing that I heard repeated by John Wooden, who's one of my heroes. I think he may be the best college basketball coach in the history of college basketball. He said, "It's never a perfect day, unless you do something for someone else that they cannot repay you. And I think that's what leadership is about. We do things for other people that they can never repay us. And that makes it a perfect day. And ever since I've heard that, I've always been reminded, every week I try to do something for someone that they can't do anything to repay me. And it makes me feel better about what I've done. So again, I hope that you have an excellent day and have a safe trip home. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I know that he mentioned Charlene Nichols. If Charlene would raise her arm, hand, whatever. Charlene's the Assistant Alumni Director, and she's just a dynamic individual on our staff. And Suzanne, thank you for joining our staff too. It's my pleasure now to introduce the President of Fort Hays State. 8th President. He is the longest serving president here at our university and also in the Kansas Board of Regents. The university continues to grow and excel. He's in his 27th year. Let's welcome Dr. Hammond.
Thank you very much. Thank you and welcome. It's a real pleasure to be here on such a gorgeous, beautiful Saturday. You can't ask for a better football day than we got today. I mean, it's going to just be outstanding. The purpose of my remarks this morning is to brief you on the future of the university. All of you have participated in the history of the institution in some way or form, but what we want to talk about is what's going to happen in the next 25 years. The Kansas Board of Regents requires that each institution has a master plan for the physical campus. The master plan that we have been operating under was one that I developed in 1990, and at this point it's basically built out. We have one vacant building site left on the current existing master plan. And so it was time to look at the next 25 years, even though we finished the last one in 23, it's important that we have a plan. Now, the plan doesn't have X building in Y space. I mean, it doesn't say that the art building is going to be built here if it's built, or it simply sets out sites for particular buildings. So it's a plan, but it's flexible enough that we're able to respond to changes that are going on within the institution. Our operational plan, our strategic map for 2020, sets a goal for the university of serving 20,000 students in 2020. So while we are beginning a new strategic plan, the goal that we are working towards, serving 20,000 students in 2020, is a significant driver of what I'm going to show you today. And that recognizes the fact that we deliver courses in 3 modalities, and each modality has a different demand on our physical plan. The on-campus enrollments, our total enrollments this fall are 13,441 students. Out of that number, 962 of them are freshmen, on-campus freshmen. If we're going to reach our goal of serving 20,000 students, we know we have to have at least 1,000 freshmen on the Hays campus every single year starting in 2015. So one of the things you're going to see in the master plan is a recognition that we need more housing. Guess what? Students don't like the housing that we used to have. I mean, I know you all were very happy in Wiest Hall, gentlemen, but the current students are not that happy about Wiest Hall. So, you know, it's kind of funny. You take somebody who's raised in a family, who have their own private bedroom since they can remember, and then we say, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to have a roommate. All of a sudden, that's not a high priority for students any longer, even though I tend to believe it's very, very important for their development to learn how to live with somebody else and to share and compromise and do those kind of things. It's a good learning experience. But our students are not, when we survey them, they opt for our single bedroom arrangements that we currently have on campus. So the other thing that we're doing is not only being driven by the fact that Our numbers are going to increase, but the desires and the interests of our students are changing. The other part of our strategic plan has to do with our virtual enrollment, and it will be the fastest growing component if we're going to get to 20,000. Of our 13,000, almost 14,000 students this year, a little over 5,000 of those are virtual students, mostly in Kansas. So if you think about our 13,000, I'll just say 13.5, if you think about it as 5,000 undergraduates in Hayes, which is a record, if you think about 5,000 virtual students, and you think about 3,500 in our international program, and those students don't live here, and the faculty aren't here, but the faculty for the virtual are. So we need a campus that will house X number of on-campus students, but we need faculty space that will not only be able to handle our on-campus, but handle our virtual. So let me quickly take you through what the Board of Regents has now approved as our new master plan. And in doing so, let me compliment Gould Evans out of Kansas City, who was our architects and planners that we worked with. They've also done the master plan for Pittsburgh State in the process, and I think they're working on one other one of the 6 region schools. But the first thing that they came to a realization about was we have a beautiful campus. And I tend to think it's the most beautiful campus in the Kansas Regent system. And I think a lot of people, even at the other campuses, agree we have a very, very pretty and maybe the most beautiful campus. So the first thing that they said is we shouldn't do anything in our master plan that detracts from the beauty that we currently have. So the limestone building, the architectural design of our buildings are something that they say has to be maintained, and the master plan is basically continuing along that same line. That's our commitment to our heritage and our history, that our buildings will be out of limestone. Now, one of the things I learned the hard way was the first new building that I was involved in was Tamanic Hall. And Tamanic Hall is a beautiful limestone building. But when we competitively bid the building, the limestone contract went to a company out of Indiana. And I didn't think anything about it, and evidently no one else did. But the further you go east, the more gray the limestone gets. The further you go west, the more yellow the limestone gets. So a lot of people look at Tamanic Hall and say, oh, it's too bad you didn't build it out of limestone. It is built out of limestone. It's built out of Indiana limestone. Well, since then, we learned, and we competitively bid things, but it has to be from an area that would support our normal limestone. Because the original buildings all came from our own quarry, right out here on the college farm. So the advantage of getting limestone that's yellow makes it look nicer. The disadvantage is the further east you go, the grayer it gets, but the more solid and better rock it is. The further west you go, the more yellow it is, and the more porous it is, and the harder it is to maintain. So if you're walking around some of the old buildings on campus now, you will quickly see that on the ground, along the bottom of those walls, you'll see lots of chips because the limestone gets very porous and will freeze and chip off. You walk around Tamanic and you don't find that. So there's advantages and disadvantages. One of the beauty of the limestone, but the harder limestone will last a lot longer and is a lot easier to maintain. So those are some of the struggles, but we've made the commitment in our master plan to maintain the architecture of the campus and the commitment to the limestone. Let's take a look quickly at the master plan that we had, the 2009 master plan, just to give you an idea quickly of what we've got here. And you can see that you have the original quadrangle that you're all very, very familiar with. And then in this new in the 1990 master plan, what we did is we were creating a second academic quadrangle here. And that was done. And there was a road that was to come around to open up the back side of this quadrangle. All of that's been done. The new Center for for network learning that's being built right in here. And then there's one more building site, which is right here on the corner by Malloy Hall that hasn't been built on yet. But that's the last building site of it. There is one residence precinct in this area here that we had, and 2 academic quadrangles. So when we look at the expansion, one of the questions that we had to ask is, okay, if we're going to be building 6 or 7 new academic buildings in the next 20 years, 25 years, where do they go? The other thing about the 90 master plan is it didn't have that many new buildings in it, but it had a commitment to totally redo the current existing buildings. I felt very strongly about the fact that we have some gorgeous buildings on the quad. So we started in 1990 taking each of those buildings, basically totally repurposing them, redesigning the inside. From the outside, Albertson looks the same, all of the facilities look the same. You go inside, and those of you that were here a number of years ago, they don't look the same inside as they used to. And so the old master plan didn't have as many new buildings in it, but had a lot more commitment to renovation and had commitment to a few new buildings. The new master plan you're going to see has more new buildings, some commitment to renovation, and I'll talk about where that's going to take place as well. But I'm trying to help you with the difference. The old master plan had 2 academic quadrangles. The new plan is going to have 3. It had 1 residential precinct. The new plan is going to have 2. The old plan had a commitment to renovation. The new plan will have more of a commitment to new buildings and a lesser commitment to renovation. Okay? Now, if we move ahead, all plans have certain elements. One of them is athletic facilities and intramurals and recreation kinds of facilities. So the old master plan, which is now basically built out, had what we would like to call an academic or a athletic and intramural corridor that wrapped around the southern portion of the campus, and the new master plan actually maintains that concept. So if you think about a corridor that will run from Larks Park over to the football stadium, track, and the new indoor training facility, this is the Buffalo Herd land here, which we own. Intramurals, softball, you've got Gross Cunningham, you've got the golf course, and then you have the new soccer facility and the new Bickel-Schmidt complex out here in this area. You can see that we have kind of a corridor of recreation and athletic facilities. We also have room for expansion in there if we wanted to. And we looked at such questions in the next 25 years. Do we want to move the softball stadium over by the soccer stadium and build a new facility, or do we want to continue to develop it here? We've got the tennis center there, and in the end, we made the decision the softball stadium is going to stay there. We saw a real advantage and synergy to having it more in the middle of campus where students could come. And as long as we were going to maintain our tennis facilities there, it made sense to maintain our softball facilities. That then permits us to use locker rooms and everything that are inside Gross Cunningham. If we moved it out here like we did soccer, we'd have to duplicate locker rooms and storage space that we currently have in Gross Cunningham. So the new plan maintains this athletic and intercollegiate band around here, and gives us some areas for expansion. We've just about outgrown Meckel Field, and we need more intramural space. Well, we've got lots of places out here we can use. We've also got the ability to expand in this way into the Buffalo Herd if we want to, create more intramural space there, and that's the long-range master plan. So there's not a lot of new athletic facilities, as much as there is just an opportunity for expansion sites if we want to as we move forward. Now, the new master plan, as I said, has a number of elements, but one of them is a residence hall elements where the students are going to live. And right now, this is the old one area that we've got right now where students live. So you've got Custer and McMidas, Agnew and Heather Hall, you have the Stadium Place units here, and Wiest, you notice, is not there. There's a dotted line around it. In the new master plan, 2 buildings are proposed to be torn down. Wiest is one, or 3 buildings are proposed to be torn down, and Wiest is one of those that is targeted for demolition. And I think we can probably sell tickets for that. As many people as lived there, partied there, or grew up there, or whatever, we could probably make this a fundraising event if we chose to. Just to have an implosion party for Wiest. I think people would come back from all over to participate in that. And then eventually on that site, we will build either more suites, which is what we have here in the new Custer, or not in Custer, in the new Heather Hall. And for example, if you haven't been in those facilities, Agnew and Heather, you'll be blown away by what we have. We have 4-bedroom suites, 2 baths, so each bedroom is supported by separate private baths, and a little living room, kind of kitchenette kind of areas. So we're trying to begin to move to what we call a three-tier housing system. So we'll offer a traditional kind of residence hall option, we'll offer suites, and then we offer condos. And the condos are over here at the Stadium Place, 2-bedroom and 4-bedroom condos that are all furnished. People there isn't bringing the horse trailer with everything from Waukene with the Dinas family dragging along behind in 4 cars like we used to. Right now, all you do is bring your clothes and you walk in, everything's there. TVs are there, stoves, washer and dryers, dishwashers in each unit. It's really nice. That's our high-end units right now. And then you've got the suites in the middle, and then your traditional dormitory. The traditional dormitory being McMidas, which we've spent about $7.5 million on the last few years, so it's been totally redone. Everything from new air conditioning and heating. You don't have the dripping pipes like you used to have. I mean, we've taken some of the beauty of the building away. I mean, those pipes used to make people, because there were buckets and glasses, people would catch all the water, But so all of that's gone. New window systems, new door systems, all the bathrooms have been totally redesigned for more privacy, and it's a gorgeous building. So that is our lower end price point in the housing market, and then you move up to suites and up to the condo model. And at some point, the master plan says we're going to come back into the Wiest site and build more housing. And that will depend on student demand. If student demand is for more condos, we will then migrate the Stadium Place kind of units over into that area. If they need more suites, we will move the suites into that area from Agnew, and from Heather Hall will come into this area here. If I had to guess right now, it looks like it may be more suites. But the Stadium Place and Heather and Agnew fill up first. I mean, that's right now of course, they're the newest, so maybe that's part of it. And they have the privacy that students are looking for. But what the plan does is, out here, if you turn around and you look out this window, to the left, you wouldn't be able to see the building site, but to the left along the bypass, they're proposing to put in a brand new housing complex. In fact, yesterday, the architects were on campus, the last couple of days, architects were on campus meeting with student life on the development of this project here. And it looks really beautiful, what they're looking at doing. These will be single bedrooms, and again, the semi-private baths. And there will be about 500 bed spaces in the first phase of what we build over there, and a new food service facility. So what we'll have in the end is we will have one residence complex on this side another residence complex on this side, so there will be 2 instead of 1. This one over here will have a trail and pathway that will come to a bridge that will actually go over Big Creek, a pedestrian bridge that will take them into campus. And on the end of this, we're looking at LLCs, living and learning communities, which will also be for fraternities, sororities, and that kind of thing will be built in this area as well. So we're going to be trying to migrate some of those groups back onto campus housing, and we have a number of them that have already said they're very much interested in working with us to create that option. So in this first phase, some of that will be done as well. And then we've got on this site, we have room for about 1,000 beds in those various different options. So right now, totally on campus, we have about 1,500 or 1,600 beds. And when we drop Weiss, that takes 400. So that will mean in this area we'll have somewhere of around 1,000 beds, and up here we'll have about 1,000 beds for about 2,000 bed campus in long range is what we're looking at. So that's the residence plan that we've got. The third part of our plan is our academic plan, and is the most important part. So this is the old quad in the light gray buildings, and the first thing that you see is Memorial Union is sitting here like you all remember it. We debated, do we build a new union and take that down or repurpose it? And the decision was made, no, we wanted to leave it there. Because it becomes the center, you will see when I show you the whole thing, it becomes really the center of the academic campus to have it there. But we know over the next 25 years we're going to need to expand that building if we're going to serve the number of students we're talking about. Because to get to 20,000 students, we're going to have 7,000, probably 7,000, 7,500 students here in Hayes. So we're going to go from 5,000 to 7,000, 7,500 over the next few years. So the decision here was that the expansion of the union would be to the north. And to do that, that means that another building has to be taken down, and that's Davis Hall. And Davis Hall is also the only kind of brick building on campus. It doesn't fit the architectural design of the campus. And so at some point, Davis Hall will come down. The power plant, though, stays. If you haven't driven by the power plant and taken a good look at it, it's a beautiful building. It's got some great architectural features. And so the plan is that we try to keep the old power plant. We'll totally renovate it. It may become an art museum that would help us with entertaining. So we'd have the union and an art museum, standalone art museum right there on that major entrance to campus. Because this will become a very important entrance to campus right here. It still is now, but it will become even more important. When Davis comes down, there is actually room for another building on the original old quad that can be done. That is one of the new building sites that the new master plan has, is an expansion of the union, and then a new proposed building site for an academic building on the original quad. In addition, the plan also takes a look at Rarick Hall and says we've got to redo Rarick. And so there is a commitment in the master plan to totally renovate Rarick. In fact, in the priorities of the master plan, it is very high on the priority list. It will be probably the first major renovation project of this master plan. Now, the challenge with Rarick is it's such a huge building that we can't close it down. I mean, we couldn't move everybody out. We had no place to move them if we move everyone out of Rarick. And so the plan right now is to start at the bottom, the first floor. We'll redesign the whole building, but the construction will kind of be done floor at a time. And to do that, we've got to move art out of that building. And so the first new building on campus will probably be an art education building. If we move art out off the first floor and education out of the building, and create a brand new building for those units, then that frees up enough space that we can put all of arts and sciences, including moving psychology that's in Martin Allen right now, into Rarick, which gives us then the ability for expansion and moving some of the offices out of Picken. For example, the graduate school may move out of Picken and into Martin Allen over the next 15 years or something like that. Because we don't have any more expansion space here, and if we go to 20,000 students, we're going to need to create more space for some of the offices that are currently in Picken. So part of the plan is to redo, redesign, and to spend a lot of money redoing Rarick Hall. The other major change in the master plan is the idea that between the two quadrangles, between the old quadrangle and the new one that we're doing, this is the library, the campus drive would be closed and turned into a pedestrian mall. And then on that pedestrian mall, you will notice right there is a bell tower that is a tower that would be built. It's much like right now the design is much like the Washington Monument. The only difference would be out of limestone. It'd be about 8 stories high, so it'd be the tallest structure in Hayes. And on the top of it, instead of a limestone point, would be a plexiglass or some sort of glass triangle that would be made of something that the hail couldn't break and bullets couldn't hurt or whatever, whatever it be. And inside it would be a gigantic searchlight that would be pointing straight up. So as you drive into Hayes from any direction, you will see the lamp of knowledge right smack in the middle of the campus. It'll look like a big candle. And no matter which direction you're coming in, it'll be one of the first things that you see will be this beautiful lamp of knowledge right smack in the middle of our campus. So that's one of the real, I think, beautiful things about this master plan. And we'll need to raise some money to get that done, but I think we can accomplish that. And this will become a pedestrian mall in this area here. If you look at the new quad, which is the one we're just finishing now, here you can see we've closed the street from about here. You've got to let the trucks be able to get around and into the back of Sheridan, because that's how all the traveling shows come in. So the street will be open at least that far, and then there is a turnaround right here into parking to drop off for the Herndon Clinic that we'll probably maintain. But from that turnaround all the way down to the entrance into the backside of where the trucks come into Sheridan will be the pedestrian mall. The other thing that you will notice in the master plan is Heather Hall is gone. So that is another building that's scheduled for demolition. The 3 in this plan are Wiest, Heather, and Davis Halls. In this master plan, in the next 25 years, those buildings will not be on campus where they are. So this will create a very open area in between Malloy and the library for people to flow into a new green area that will be then part of this new academic quadrangle. And you can see this is the new center that's currently under construction. And you can kind of notice that the old creek bed runs underneath it. And that is because we started to build it, we found out the old creek bed is a protected wetlands, federal wetlands, whatever. And so at first they said, oh, what do we got to do? We were going to build a building there and we can't build a building. I said, yes, you can. What do you want to do? And I said, well, you build half the foundation on one side of the wetlands and half the foundation to the other, and you build a building over it. So that's what we're doing. And we're working with the city. The city right now they dump a lot of water from the sewer plant, effluent, into Big Creek. And they also take a lot of the water up, and the golf course is watered with that. The Bickelschmidt Sports Complex is watered with that effluent water. And so we're talking to them. They're looking at ways to dump it into Big Creek up more in this area so that it will percolate enough, be able to support our well systems for recharge. So we're working with them. If they can dump it in upstream enough, then it will flow and we can be able to have water in this area in the old creek bed all year round. And so we're real close to getting that arrangement done, because one of the problems is that sometimes during the year there's no water in that. And this building's going to be gorgeous, and it will be really beautiful if in this water feature we have this fountain and we need to aerate it and everything. And so I'm really excited about what I think this building could end up adding to the campus. So it's under construction, and then this is that other building site that still remains up here by Malloy. The other thing that's recognized in the master plan is Malloy Hall is undersized. We need a band room that is bigger. We don't have a place now for the marching band to practice, really, unless they come to Beach Smith, because we are now up, as you will see today, if you haven't seen the Fort Hays Band in a while. It is, over 100 strong. It's a good-sized band. It continues to grow, and we need to have adequate space for practice for the orchestra and the band. And that room is right here on that building, and so at some point we've got to figure out how to expand that room. And then off of the stage area, there is a need for more storage and back shop kind of operations. And so instead of building a new music and theater building, and as you know, we've moved the theater department into the music department, and our specialty now is musical theater. So that we need to do some expansions there in that, so the plan recognizes that building has to expand. The library is also a building that's targeted for total renovation, along with Rarick. And the entrance, there's some debate as to whether or not the entrance shouldn't be out towards Lyman instead of over here, but that'll be figured out as we go along. There may be multiple entrances on the library when we redesign it. But this basically is the area where the 1990 master plan worked, and these are the proposed changes in that second quad. Now, if you move ahead and you think about, this is an artist rendering of that mall that will in effect link those two together. The only thing you don't see on this mall is you don't see the belt where the bell tower will be. And we don't know exactly where it's going to be along there either. But somewhere in this area here where Heather Hall used to be, either on this side or that side, we'll figure it out as we move. One of the things we know we have to maintain in that mall is room for emergency vehicles to get up and down it if we need to. So we've got to offset it so we can protect the access for emergency vehicles. This is the housing that's behind here, where they're talking about a food service facility, and then a number of, it would be about 3 stories high, the architectural drawing I saw. And this footprint doesn't exist anymore. The new architects have changed the whole footprint of it. And it's gorgeous. It really, I think, will be a tremendous asset. Again, all single rooms, mostly freshmen, I think, will be in this facility. We'll just have to see, but it's being designed now, and it will also provide us the opportunity to add more parking in this area, which we need for ball games and commencement and things like that as well. So we'll be expanding parking in that area. This is the biggest change in the new plan. It's a new academic quadrangle. So if you think about, this is the Union, this is College Drive, this is Gustad Drive, which comes over here. They propose to take this space here for the next major academic quadrangle. So we will have 3, the old one, the new one that we're developing now. So it will kind of be like a 3-leaf clover. If you picture a 3-leaf clover, The right one being the old quad, the middle one being the one we've just developed now with Tamanical and everything, and the one on the left. And then in between each of those leaves on that clover is where the residence complexes flow in. So there's some symmetry to the design that they've come up with. But one of the problems we dealt with is we can't have a traditional quadrangle. Because when we made the decision to leave the Union here, we have to maintain adequate parking to support events in the Union. So a big part of this quadrangle or academic precinct here is the fact that they've got to maintain at least the level of parking that we currently have. And then you will notice that here they've got a set of 3 buildings here, 1 building on the other side, and then a building here. So there's actually 5 building sites in this particular area for new facilities. The nursing building will remain as kind of a cornerstone. And you notice that the president's residence, which is right here now, at some point they're proposing will have to be relocated in the next 25 years if we're going to really develop this. The other thing is the physical plant is up here, and the physical plant will have to be relocated as well. And so they're proposing to put the physical plant back on the, would be more directly out the backside of this out of this room, on the old Highway 40, or possibly we would move it to where we're building our new cold storage facilities. If you're driving in and you come up over the railroad tracks, if you look at the right, you see the sports complex. And if you look almost straight ahead, you'll notice we built 2 Butler buildings over there that are our closed storage facility where we store stuff, and buses and things are going to be over there. That area can be expanded, and I kind of like that site better than the one off of Highway 40, but it's going to have to be moved because it can't be here. In all likelihood, the first building site that we will use will be this one here. This is the old marching band practice area, for those of you that were in it. And this building will be the art education building. And we're playing around with the idea that, because we need to get art and education out of Rarick before we start the renovation. So this one's on a pretty fast track right now. So we will add more parking here in front in some way off of Gustad Drive. And then there will be, the art building will be in here with the education and art together. And this is where the bridge comes across, where the students will flow back over to the main part of campus. And we've talked about dividing this building into 2 parts. We've talked about putting dirty art on one side of the creek, which would be your ironwork, Tim and all those people. He could just jump out the back here and walk over and play with his iron pouring projects. But it would be on one side along with, you know, probably our sculpture and ceramics and that kind of thing. Because what we found in the old building was that the air conditioning system pulled in the fumes from those operations and carried them all around the building. And so for when I first got here, there were all these complaints about people smelling stuff in the air conditioning, and that's what it was. Now we've solved it, and I think it can be solved. So I believe you can probably put the whole building, what's this about? I wasn't paying attention. But anyway, we can probably get the whole building built on this side, here somewhere, if we choose to. Art department is saying that they would like not to be split by that bridge. But we've talked about actually building the bridge, pedestrian bridge, into the design of this building, so that students who kind of flow through this area would kind of flow through the building in some way as they come over Big Creek in this location. And that would be the first of 3 buildings that would, academic buildings that would be built here. There'd probably be a circle drive that would connect to this. So in this quadrangle, the buildings will all have parking in front of them, much like you would in a corporate kind of an approach to it. And then there's another building that could be built in this area if we wanted to, and that's the one that's probably going to cause the president's residence to move. I mean, you could do all of this and leave the president's residence here, but if this building is needed and that location needs to be developed, then that's probably what's going to drive the decision on the president's residence in the next 25 years. And then there is room for buildings on this side as well, whether it be standalone or part of the art. That's up in the air. We haven't even hired the architects to begin on that side of it. So that's kind of a quick look of what the campus will look like in the next 25 years. I'm excited that the Board of Regents has approved our master plan and has approved our campus master plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes?
Dr. Hammond, you might tell them a little bit about the energy you've done or the generating wind farm.
Well, as you probably noticed, on the backside of the farm, we have two 2.1 megawatt wind generators. They are not turning yet. We still are waiting for commissioning. They were supposed to be commissioned in July. Then we were told they're going to be commissioned in August, and then it was September, and then it was October. Now I'm told it's November. It's a complicated project, but it will happen. I'm pretty sure the November date is good. There's one piece of equipment that we're still waiting on that we need to. But to give you some idea, that's over 4 megawatts of electricity that we will be able to generate here ourselves. Our average use on campus for the year is slightly less than 4 megawatts. So when the wind's blowing, most days we'll be able to produce all our own electricity. If we need more than that, we will be able to fire up our own generators. We've got another about 3 megawatts of combustible natural gas, fuel oil generation that we've now built on our campus, and that we're primarily using for peak shaving right now. Peak shaving is a way to save money on your electric bill. Your electric bill has two parts to it. There's a demand charge and a usage charge. The usage is the amount of electricity you use each month. When the meter reader comes around, or however they do it, electronically or the old-fashioned way, they read the meter, how much electricity you use, that's your usage charge. Your demand charge is driven by the maximum amount of electricity that you use at any one time. And you pay that demand charge every single month of the year. So back in the early part of the 1990s, I said, we've got to think about better ways to manage the institution, and one of the ways was to reduce our cost on electricity. So we started a multi-phase, it's a 4-phase project to make the institution more efficient. The first phase was conservation, and we did a bunch of things, changing out lights and doing all that kind of thing to use the most cost-effective electrical equipment. The second was peak shaving, and we brought in from the military, we were able to get from the military huge generators. And so we monitor our electric usage, and when we start to see it peak, we fire up our own generators, shave off the peak, and drive down our demand charge. And we've saved about $500,000 every year through peak shaving. And then the next phase, the third phase of the plan, was putting in our wind generation. If we wouldn't have done anything different, we'd have just operated as normal, we'd be spending $2.5 million a year on electricity. When we're done with this phase, we will spend somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million. We'll save $1.5 million to $2 million a year in our operating budget. The fourth phase is solar, putting in a solar farm on our research facility, our ag research facility, which is just a bunch of solar panels that track to the sun. And so if the sun's out and it's not windy enough, we will be able to pull solar power into the mix as well. Right now that technology is not as strong and as predictable as I would like, but in the next few years I think we will see that. My objective is to get that $2.5 million bill down to a very, very small amount that we are actually pulling from Midwest Energy. And so that's the plan, and hopefully by mid-November those will be turning and producing power for us. And next year it will have a tremendous impact on our budget. Anything else? Yes, Rick?
Without being overtly political, is the 25-year plan going to be feasible without private financing?
Rick's question is the 25-year plan feasible without private financing? Let me answer that question this way. In the 27 years I've been here, I've never once gone to the state of Kansas and asked them to build a building on our campus. They've contributed to some of the buildings, but we've never been dependent upon the state at Fort Hays. We're the only university in the state of Kansas in the last 25 years that has not asked for the state to build a building. I believe, I'm kind of old-fashioned, I believe the state dollars should be the last dollars in on a project, not the first dollars. So we save up the money, or we raise the private money, and then we build a building. If we don't have the money raised, we don't build a building. So we've got, right now in the bank, almost $50 million. Our budget is, not counting construction, about $105 million. We have the highest cash ratio of any school in the state, and the lowest debt ratio. We don't borrow money. Our debt ratio is less than 1.5%. So in the business plan that we have, we've been able to do all the renovations and all of the building that we needed to implement the last plan without having to depend upon the state to do it. Now, a big part of that has been donors stepping up to help fund parts of it, and we're probably going to have to continue to depend on donor support. But I believe if I've been able to do it for the last 25, we can probably do it the next 25. Does that answer your question? Any other? Yes. Megan?
What's the parking plan?
Parking?
Because you're decreasing the street for the pedestrian mall, so we're gonna have less on-street parking.
Right.
I saw one new parking lot and some resident parking now, but that seems to be a large issue.
I don't know why parking is an issue, but it always is. This parking lot here is brand new and will double the amount of parking that we currently are taking off of the street we're closing.
But we're also increasing on-campus population.
Right, right. But by moving the campus, let me go to another one. By moving the campus brings somewhere there. By moving the campus this way, brings this parking here that's been not used very effectively into play. So, I mean, this is a building site, and this is where we're adding a lot of spaces, and we've got potential for more parking back here on this side of the creek as well. So the new academic quad will be supported by parking on this side, as well as this additional parking lot here. So they assure me that we are gaining parking. Now, faculty in the College of Business have already talked to me. They don't like the idea that they can't park right in front of their building and walk in, which they currently do now. And the librarians don't like the fact that they can't park next to their building and walk in, but that's not going to be possible in the new plan. People will have to walk a little further, but there's going to be more than enough parking.
So I'm a KSBDC employee, and our regional office is in Custer.
Right.
And we have an issue with visitor parking because the resident halls, most of the residents take up those parking spaces.
Right.
And most of the visitor parking slot in the new parking lots are usually full, so it's just always an issue.
It's a continual issue. Visiting parking is an issue on campus. We created the parking lot across from Picken as a visiting parking lot. Only a lot of employees park there. And so until we start towing those employees away, we probably, and then they could walk across Custer Bridge Jellison Bridge to Custer in your office without too much difficulty. But the idea there was that would help address some of that visitor parking. The parking in front of Sheridan is visitor parking, but it's also where all of those two parking lots are where all the potential students come and park when they are visiting campus. And you have got a legitimate issue on that side. But if we remove half of the residents' parking from your area and move it out here and not reduce any parking, your situation's going to get a lot better. When we drop west, the parking there is still going to remain, so we're going to be able to look at what we do with parking in that area differently, because we'll have about 1/3 of the residents' beds are moving here and away from that congested area. Don't know if that will solve the problem or not, but that's the plan.
People don't ever like to walk.
But it's good for you. That's why I drive to work from my house. It's so far. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.